on to the caffeine side of things. Caffeine is a really, really well-known performance enhancer. It's legal, so we can take it. And it won't give you a big physical boost while you're running, but what it will do, it will provide mental and psychological benefits. So caffeine numbs pain receptors in the brain, which means that the perception of effort is lowered when you're taking caffeine. So if you're sensitive to caffeine, you might notice a change in your head. You might start to get a little bit sort of tipsy-ish almost. That's difficult to say, I'm not tipsy. It's hard to describe because I don't want to say overdosed on coffee before, or caffeine, but when I first started drinking caffeine in my 30s, or coffee in my 30s, I used to go into a Cafe Nero and the guy would usually give you in a large Americano 3 shots of coffee. Then, because the 4th one would just be sitting there, he'd always ask if I wanted the 4th one chucking in as well. So I did. And then after having a couple of coffees one lunchtime with 4 shots, all of a sudden in the afternoon, I started to feel a little bit weird and spaced out and a little bit tipsy. That's when you're sensitive to caffeine, and that's when you know that you've had too much. If you're used to coffee and you have coffee on an everyday basis, then you shouldn't really notice anything at all, which is really, again, what you want. You want to stay on a level playing field all the way through your run, both mentally and physically, without any big peaks or troughs. So if you're getting big peaks from sort of sugars or caffeine, it's likely that you're going to get a drop at some point as well. So we don't want to get to the point where we're suddenly having a peak. What we want to do is keep ourselves topped up all the way through. Now, the OTE Sports gels, they're caffeine gels, which I've got some, they contain 50 mg of caffeine. That's equal to about 1 shot of coffee. Okay, so if you think about maybe having an espresso, so I would say have a caffeinated gel every hour if you're a regular coffee drinker or a heavy coffee drinker, but maybe 90 minutes to 2 hours if you're not used to caffeine and you're maybe a little bit sensitive to it. So I tend to start having my caffeine gels after about an hour, but I'm used to very, very strong dark coffees. I'll also have a coffee or 2 with my breakfast there first thing in the morning to sort of kick-start that numbing of pain receptors, so my perception of effort is lowered from the start. And then an hour in, I'll start to alternate a caffeine gel with a non-caffeinated gel. So I'll be having caffeine, non-caffeinated, and things like that. Now, if you're a little bit more sensitive or if you're not sure, then do a 2-to-1 ratio of the non-caffeine ones, and then have a caffeine one every 3rd gel. Now, what I would say is Pro Plus, their tablets, they contain exactly the same amount of caffeine as one of the OTE gels, so 50 mg again. Now, some gels do vary. Some go from sort of 25 mg, some may go up to sort of like 75, but most are around the 25 to 50 mg mark because that's classed as a safe amount for most people. 2 of the tablets, the Pro Plus tablets, equal 100 millilitres of brewed coffee. So basically 2 shots of coffee. Their website says don't take any more than 2 tablets every 3 hours because they're a sort of like a concentrated hit, whereas the gels and things like that are mixed in with other things, so therefore they're absorbed differently. The Pro Plus tablets are therefore an immediate hit of sort of energy and clarity. So you may notice more sort of, I don't know, more of a mental boost from the Pro Plus tablets possibly. I've taken them before on ultras, and again, I didn't notice a burst of anything, but also I didn't notice a sort of a lowering of anything as well. I just, again, stayed on that even keel. So Pro Plus tablets, same as caffeinated gels. As gels will give you the energy and the caffeine, I'd be inclined to stick to the caffeinated gels and not use Pro Plus. For me as a runner, I like as least faff as possible. So therefore, having a gel and then also having to open a Pro Plus capsule or whatever they are, the blister packs, and then taking one of those, that's too much like hard work for me. I would prefer to know that I've got my energy here, and if I take X amount of gels, that's all I need to take. So I would say take gels over Pro Plus, bearing in mind that they've got exactly the same amount of caffeine in them. Personally as well, if you are sensitive to caffeine, I would try either a caffeinated gel or a Pro Plus tablet if you're going to use those at home, and see what the effects are. Okay, because you should get the same effects at home as you will do while you're out running. If all of a sudden you feel a little bit strange and you don't like the effect of it, if you're sensitive to caffeine, then don't take them whilst you're out running. If you're not sure about them when you're at home, take one just before you go out on maybe a 4 or 5 mile run, because it will start to kick in during the run, and then you'll know again how you feel. But it's all about trying these things, and I would try caffeine if you're not used to it at home and on a short run first before you try it halfway through a long run, because you don't want any ill effects on a long run. But if it came to a sort of a toss-up of both, I'd always just take a gel, because you know that you've got energy and caffeine instead of having to faff around with another